Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're taking a look at what I'm now dubbing Comeback Forest. Why? Because it always seems to make a comeback in the later stages of a game, which was to my surprise, honestly. I didn't know how this deck would fare at all, and I'm not typically a forest player, but this has done surprisingly well considering. The couple of matchups we've got for you will be, I think, a dragon and forest, I think, mirrors, which are quite interesting. So we'll take a look at those and get right into it. Alright, and here is our dragon. Dragon is pretty oppressive in the sense that it can drop such huge threats onto you pretty quickly, but with enough small followers sometimes you can just outperform that, and in this case we have a little bit of an edge there. We can take an early game usually fairly easily, and the late game becomes a very interesting platform for this deck to really reach the sky, so it's very interesting. Spring Green Protection, did play it fairly incorrectly, playing at turn 1 without any kind of boost, not great. This is typically more boosted into a buff kind of forest deck overall, but does perform quite well overall in that kind of sense, so definitely an interesting deck. But we do get a little bit of buff, and we can take advantage of the draw. I was hoping to be able to use Airbound Barrage on it, but our opponent didn't actually play anything and just went for a full ramp, so unfortunately Spring Green didn't get complete value, but it still did pretty alright. Now I can take advantage of the fact that I can play bad and return it with Airbound Barrage and get a little bit of boost out of it as well, so those sort of plays actually work pretty nicely with this deck as well, which does allow you to pretty easily swing at followers that were originally small to be quite large. So 5 damage to the face, quarter of their health in one swing, always feels nice. Of course, Breath of Salamander counters this pretty hard, but that Sybil really doesn't stand a chance against our current hand. Especially with that draw, that's a pretty perfect draw for this. I mean, we can go for some nice draw power thanks to the buffing, which always works out in our favour. And bad can pretty much just trade straight into it.
All must come to an end.
So with a 3-2-4-1 on board isn't too shabby at all, with the chance to hopefully buff one, but obviously the Sybil here is most likely going to trade. I mean, of course, if you're playing Sybil, you're going to want to trade with something.
A dance to make the world blue.
And hitting the 3-2 is probably the optimal place to go anyway. But we do have another Airbound Barrage, which opens up a little bit of room for us to mess around with. Especially with Elf Song already being playable, we can actually go for some pretty nice buffs.
All must come to an end.
Which will allow us to go for another 5 damage. Unfortunately, I did heal the last 5, but this time, hopefully this one should stick. After we have already dealt with 2 Sybils, so there's only one good source of healing left for them. It's Bahamut though, really interrupting my game plan. I am pretty much forced to throw Fairy Driver to the board and go as wide as possible and get that little bit of damage in while I can. Which really is a little more than a little. I mean, it does leave them at 7 once you add in the evolve, so it's a pretty substantial damage swing. While it's not the perfect hand, it does do the job.
So sparkly.
So now it's just a matter of how can we get lethal from here.
Shall I grant your fragile dreams?
And of course, Queen of the Dreadseed does kind of ruin this, especially since they drop another Bahamut, although losing 2 cards for the cost of removing that board just doesn't always seem worth it in this sense. But we are going to take quite a bit of damage from this Eyes, so I guess they were hoping these 2 would be a big enough threat that I really have no counter to. Which, they wouldn't be wrong. I mean, my best counter is to heal and ward, and that's pretty much it. I don't have any other big play out of this, so...
Stop! Ow!
The only real advantage now at this point is that I can actually jungle Warden and play Instincts Unleashed, which will kill this Baha and set up another ward, so... The only option is that they have to not be able to clear this turn. If they can, I'm screwed. Which, by the looks of the Eyes play, they weren't able to do, so... A little bit of luck has to come into this, because otherwise it's like wouldn't be a card game.
Your enemy
But we do get a pretty good heal and a good trade, meaning they aren't going to easily knock us down completely. The only chance now would basically be Israfil. I think that is the only card in their entire deck that could deal an instant lethal. Otherwise they would need at least then both cards, the one in their hand and their draw, to be really good. So it'll be interesting to see what they have. And fortunately they don't have anything, which is really positive. Obviously whatever they do have isn't playable or isn't worth playing at this point. Maybe something like Queen they have in hand? Who knows? Either way, we do get to go pretty wide with this, which is actually really good, because now even if they do play Israfil, it's not going to be perfect, because the Israfil isn't going to be able to fully trade with this board unless they actually have Saha Isra, which with 3 cards isn't looking very good for them. One of them was Sybil, so it makes sense as to why that wasn't played. Or that is their top deck, I'm not sure. Blazing Breath, of course, didn't want to be played last turn, so that makes sense. And if Sybil was off the top, I'm guessing that could be their objective. But from here, we actually have a very easy lethal. I mean, the buffs that we've got in hand are well and truly enough to really hit this board hard. For a solid 12 damage to remove this dragon player.
Get out of my sight.
There's no one else I'd rather lose to.
Next up is our Forest Mirror match. So the Forest Mirror is the interesting one because Forest, honestly, is still quite a strong deck, especially with elephant combos being the more popular variants. It's definitely interesting to see something different, and they have these sweet story sleeves, which if you haven't, you can check out my story video where we go through all the story for Arisa, as we go through the Guild Wars story that was added not too long ago. So we don't have any opener, which is kind of disappointing. I do like having a turn 1 opener, preferably, especially when they're able to go really aggressive. So we're definitely on the back foot for this match. And basically forced to play Theta, which is kind of disappointing considering they have an optimal trade here.
Don't hurt me.
And Insect Lord is even better, so unfortunately for us, they get to go wide and go hard. We're now pretty stuffed, honestly. I mean, Wood of Brambles plus 1-drop is pretty useless, so we can't actually take advantage of it and play it out. We've basically just got to leave them to their own devices until we can get to a playable turn for ourselves. Which with them playing that is super wide buffs. It's the kind of hand we really wanted. But we do manage to get this fairy out, which is good, and since we can do both fairies, that's even better, plus a nice fairy song to put more fairies in our hand to combo with something like Fairy Driver or just to swarm the board and get some good trades here. Brambles really makes the trades so much better.
To dust once more.
So we don't really lose out on anything. An Airbound Barrage, that's an unfortunate trade for us because they actually get really good value out of it. And a second Brambles, so definitely making my life difficult. And of course Insect Lord ruining it even further. But Jungle Warden does become the optimal play. Being able to drop it means they are forced to do some form of trading here, whether it's good or bad for them. And a second Wood of Brambles actually makes this a little bit better. But it does also at the same time clog their board a little bit. So at the moment we're basically buying time to get to our kind of heal ward turns, which this kind of Forest deck with Versing will actually have a hard time dealing with. It's just a matter of if we can outdo that in time.
Bad people are evil.
So we can actually throw our own Brambles out finally and hopefully take advantage of this Insect Lord pretty quickly. Which with an evolve will actually trade into something at the same time as hopefully removing one of those 2 bigger drops. Hopefully not hitting the 1/1. That's the only card I don't want to hit out of these 3. So let's see where this goes, and right on target, hitting a 3/4. Couldn't have asked for a little bit better RNG honestly, so great. I mean the Goblin would have been good too, a 1/3 removed would have been fine. But that was definitely the better play. And now the Goblin is left. Let's see where they go with this one.
play.
Wide with a bit more Wooded Brambles. Let's see. Beetle Warrior, ew. Kind of lucky we did manage to take that out then, because that Beetle Warrior would have been a little more difficult. Although we could have just traded the 3/3 into it if it did hit the Goblin, so it wouldn't have been a problem. We just wouldn't have had this board to use. So we're on 1 health, which is shocking, honestly. We can't quite remove everything easily, but we can at least go for the Crystal Evolve to remove the 3/5, which also heals us for 3, so we're making a comeback from that 1 HP, which is why I see this as a pretty good comeback for our deck. You don't expect to come back from plays like this. So the opponent now has to remove the 6/4. We've seen all their Brambles, so I don't expect to see that. And that Airbound Barrage really isn't that dangerous. Especially now, where we can drop our second Crystal, which is a great block, and heal up. And holding onto the Evolve just in case we do need to make a trade, but the opponent obviously realizes they can't beat over these wards now, so pretty good win for us. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, you can find this deck list in the description below. It's definitely some fun and an interesting one to play. I'd love to see what you guys can do with it and honestly have some fun. I mean, this is a great deck for that, so make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more content, and I will catch you guys next time. See ya.